Verizon is going ultra with 5G ultra wideband in many more cities. Mindy, with up to 10 times faster speeds, she can download a movie in minutes or a song in seconds.
Yep.
Verizon is going ultra so you can do more.
This is something that the NHL's put together to allow all 32 teams to have access to some of the elite players coming through the draft this year. It's an opportunity for us to interview them if we see fit. It's also an opportunity to test them out physiologically, and so there's a number of components to it. We don't care where the players are drafted. It's more about who do we think can be the best players. That's the order we have.
We've got a good process going with questions. The scouts that are the most familiar with the players lead the conversation. And you can see some personalities in players as well.
Shane Martini, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
I hear there's an eagle in the room.
91, Cutter, 91.
Awesome. Eagle. I had two boys at one kid.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear.
I like to ask, right away, tell me who you are as a player. I don't know you. I've never saw you play. What do you do?
I'm a two-way power forward with lots of skill, who loves being physical, who can play both sides of the puck, whether it's defense or O-zone, and I love scoring goals.
I'm a really competitive player that works really hard and also has good hockey sense, good skating, and like I said, competes really hard, goes into the corners, goes in battles.
Can be trusted to kill penalties, take face-offs, play power play. I think I'm someone who can play a lot of different situations and be a really versatile player.
Strong on a puck in the offensive zone, can create or shoot.
Your coach talks about having alpha personalities in the dressing room. Do you consider yourself an alpha personality? Are you a leader on the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, I'm not the loudest guy in the locker room, but, I think there's other ways to lead. I'm a guy that's not afraid to say anything when, it needs to be said.
How do you have an understanding for kind of maybe what your teammates are going through, but also hold them accountable?
When you walk into a room and the whole team respects you and looks up to you as a leader on the team, I don't think you can really, you can't really tell someone to look up to you as a leader. It's just through your actions and what you do as a person.
They're young men, like they're young, and that's one of the first things you see as they walk in the room. It's like, wow, So you look at a guy who's dealing with the pressure of being a projected #1 pick overall, and you realize the pressure this young man's been under since 15 years old. Pressure that some of us will never have in our lifetimes. So it gives it definitely a human context for sure.
As a top player, as a draft prospect, there's always going to be those expectations, and if there's not people putting pressure on you or people talking bad about you, then you're obviously not doing something right. So every little detail, every little play you make is it's going to help you win or it's going to help you lose. I think that there's no room for error.
Are you the best player in the draft?
The authentic ones that are just genuine when they're answering questions. It's fun to see their personality. At least you understand, why somebody may play a certain way and why a coach has talked about someone as high as they are or as maybe not. But you can see that in their personalities.
Interviews aren't exact. It doesn't mean if someone gives a good interview that they're necessarily going to be the better player. It's always nice to shake someone's hand and you really get a sense for, wow, that guy's a little bit bigger than I thought he was, or he looked on the ice, or geez, he's got some room for growth. And there's a lot to be learned from it.
I still got a lot of work to do. As someone who's always striving to be the best, there's always ways you can be better.
I just want them to know that I'll do whatever it takes.
I want to be an impact player in the NHL, so I think just leaving the qualities that I have with them, and I think I did that too.
The testing's complete, the draft boards are set, and dreams will be made tonight as it's the first round of the 2022 NHL Draft. Welcome into the PlayUp Studios as our continued draft coverage is brought to you by Verizon. I'm Catherine Bogart here with Matt Loughlin and Chico Resch. We have a jam-packed show tonight. We are not only going to get you set for the Devils' second overall pick in this draft, we're also going to tell you what holes they need to fill with the prospect pool. And later on, that selection by the Devils will be live from Montreal on this show. And we'll even have an exclusive interview. So a packed night for you guys to learn everything you need to know going into this draft. Gentlemen, it's an exciting night because really anything could happen. But before we jump into who could go second overall, let's talk more about the prospect pool. What are some of the areas that Tom Fitzgerald, the general manager, needs to address with this year's draft?
We'll hear it. We've heard it. We'll always hear it. Best player available, right? That's what they want to fill. But the fact of the matter is, I think looking at the organization, Catherine, this is a team that needs to fill in its scoring in the forward spot. I think we're seeing, Chico, the defense starting to bubble up. Luke Hughes is on the horizon. Ohatu played earlier this year. Kevin Ball played last season, on and on and on. But I think it's on the forward side that the Devils have to fill in.
Well, they definitely do. We're all excited about down the center. I don't think there's necessarily a team in the league that has more potential down the center. But you've got to get some help off the wings. We saw it in the Stanley Cup Finals. You know, the Avalanche had a lot of wingers that chipped in goals. Devils had two players that had 26 goals. Nice. We need a 30-goal scorer, right? And they're not easy to get. I get it. But somehow Tommy Fitzgerald has to do it either through this draft or in a week when they have the free agency. And then, as you said, defense this year, the Devils' defense this year has to be better. It has to be tighter, more productive. We cannot have the same type of defense. And we won't get into that because they're not going to draft a goalie, but Mackenzie Blackwood has to come back with an edge to his game.
We're minutes away from finding out who will be the next member of this franchise. So before we get there, Chico Resch, you are now the general manager of the New Jersey Devils, and you're walking up to that stage in Montreal. Who are you taking at second overall?
Well, my eye is on your eye, Slafkovsky. That's a bad joke, but anyway.
Come here for the draft show and
yeah,
get a couple of
turns
jokes
into
along
a comedy
the way.
show. If he's available, but you talked about tonight, it's exciting, but it's unpredictable. Now we're going to look at some of the power moves Slafkovsky has. In the Olympics, my friend played for the U.S. Team defense, and they said this guy was almost uncontrollable at times along the board. This is a penalty shot. You're going to see some hands here, but he just can kind of do it all. And I don't want to compare him to Jaromir Jagr, but my friend was saying that he can protect the puck. He can use that big body, 6'4", 230. But he can also beat you with the razzle-dazzle. And the other thing is, he can shoot the puck. Can you imagine Jack Hughes setting him up and him snapping that puck off the top of the circle and scoring goals? But we got to get there first, and it's going to depend a lot on who Montreal takes.
Yeah, and I think that's where things can get very interesting. I, too, am a fan of Juraj Slafkovsky. I think he answers a lot of Devils' needs, including the fact that he could play this season.
Yeah.
He'll be given a chance at the forward spot to be on the team out of camp. But what happens if Montreal takes him? I think the Devils want Slafkovsky enough that if Montreal selects him, the Devils' pick is in play. Because of the strength up the middle, Shane Wright would be the player you think would normally then go second overall. Not that you can ever turn down talent, but with Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes, 1-2 at your center spot, Shane Wright fills the third spot. But do you want the second pick to be the third spot, if you know what I mean? So I think that Tom Fitzgerald and his staff have done their work. They know who would be interested in jumping up to get Shane Wright if he's available. And I would not be shocked if, after the announcement is made, if it's made, that Juraj Slafkovsky is going to Montreal, that the Devils will make a deal. And they'll be able to fill in some need and still get a pick.
Yeah.
Shane Wright is one of the two players that NHL Central Scouting Dan Marr said has a chance of making that roster next season. However, there is something I want to touch on with Shane Wright. Matt, when you look at that missed season, since the OHL did not play 2 seasons ago due to COVID, what impact do you think that has on Shane Wright going into this draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think while he had a good year, it wasn't a great year. And I think that that's why some teams, and scouts have soured on him a little bit. He still was very good for Kingston, but just not what was expected. I think it had a big effect. You cannot miss an entire year. Players do miss it for injury. I get it. But I just think at his age, not playing for a full year really did affect his trajectory. So that goes into the thinking, well, maybe he hasn't shown fully where he could be.
Well, and I don't think he's the type of impact player we've seen, like with Matthews and McDavid and Crosby and Malkin and those guys. He's not in that class. And then why I hope and think Montreal will take him, because they have needs at every position. You know, their center ice position has to be shored up. So I think he's legitimately in the mix, but hopefully Montreal sees him as a need more than they do Slafkovsky, because my heart is set on the Devils getting that big winger.
Another player who has been in the picture is a Slovakian teammate of Juraj Slafkovsky, is Simon Nemec. He's one of those defensemen that really has stood out, particularly because of his postseason play with his Slovakian club this season. He also did show well at the World Championships and the Olympics with Nemec. He's one of those players that in the postseason for Nitra, his team, he had more points then in that short period of time than he had if you looked at point per average throughout the season. This season, he had 26 points. 25 of them were assists, which was the most any under 18 skater has had in a while, but third most all time in that conference. And Nemec is one of those players that he's a two-way defenseman. He does think offensively, and he has some size. He is 6 foot, 190. However, there are some other defensemen out there that are bigger, and Juraj is actually 4 inches taller than his Slovakian teammate. But he's another player that really showed when he was playing for the Slovakian national team this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's a terrific young defenseman, and the Devils are going to have to start solidifying that defense, right? We don't know what Dougie Hamilton's going to do. I'm not sure. He had a disappointing year to me. I don't really know who he is. You know, Graves is going to be a defensive player. You know, Siegenthaler. But the Devils, if you look at the Stanley Cup playoffs, the big games are 2-1, 2-1, 3-2. The Devils have to learn how to shut it down defensively, and he could be, you know, that piece that they need.
We have Montreal going on the clock very soon, so we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we actually have some special memories that we get to revisit with one man who has been with this Devils franchise since the beginning. Hint, he's all the way on the right side of the screen, but we'll be right back. But first, defenseman Dougie Hamilton, who was just mentioned, actually breaks down the schedule for this upcoming season. We are so excited to show you some of the highlight games you should have circled on that calendar.
Exit 7A, Hamilton, Six Flags. We're going to Six Flags.
Do you like the Caps? Are we best friends? Since you're security at the park, would you say you're a park ranger?
Yeah.
Boo. Hey, Marty. Come on, look at these New York drivers. Boston Tea Party. Get it?
A penguin?
We're about to be shot out like a cannon.
This one's pretty obvious.
I can't believe the next season is really only a month and a half away before things start getting underway, and That season schedule is completely on NewJerseyDevils.com. Make sure you start buying your tickets. All of that is available on the Devils website. And this is a very special season for the Devils because it is the 40th anniversary of this team. And Chico, you've been here since the beginning. When you think back to this franchise moving here from Colorado, what are some of the memories that come up?
Well, the warmest memory is that when we finished in Colorado that last year, we were there. We had heard that Mr. McMullen, who owned the Astros, was going to buy the team and bring them to that new building that sat out and is all surrounded now, but it was kind of sitting out there by itself. I had played for the New York Islanders. I knew what this area was like in terms of hardcore fans, and for the first time, we were going to have a solid ownership. And one of his best friends was Yogi Berra, so we get to talk to Yogi Berra, which I was a big fan of his. But I think that was the biggest thing, is that we thought, okay, we can build something here now because we're not moving again. Colorado, we're going to go there, we're going to go there, they're going to go there. And so I think that was the best part. And Mr. McMullen and Jackie, his wife, were such family-orientated people. And I think it proved that, fortunately, he was here to build 3 cups and just great memories.
Matt, you were smart because you were a fan of the Devils when they started, but you really joined this team for the coverage when things started to ramp up. We even have a picture of you talking to the GOAT, Martin Brodeur, here in the studio after one of the Cup wins. So what was that experience like to be a part of the Devils' history making here in New Jersey?
Yeah, well, that's after the first Cup, Devils sweep Detroit, and that was in the old Meadowlands locker room, and Marty's dad took that photo. He was a great photographer, as you know, Chico.
Dennis,
and the smile on our faces and the confetti, you wouldn't expect Denny Brodeur to miss a moment like that. He captured it perfectly, and it's something that I treasure. You know, the Devils got out of the box okay.
Yeah.
But then it quickly went downhill. But it was exciting to have a team that called themselves the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
Not the Giants who played in Jersey, but were headquartered in New York and wanted to associate with the Big Apple. So we had our own team. It did take a while, but once the toehold took place, then the success followed, and 40 years has gone by like that. And you think about some of the names and faces that have come through this organization.
And Manny and Catherine, the hardcore fans. Many of them were here day one. Others, you know, the second or third year. I mean, I know every franchise has loyal fans, but Devils have as loyal fans as anyone in the National Hockey League.
Whenever you're walking around this building on a game night, you'll have people come up to both of you and talk about their favorite moments, and that's what makes this organization very unique, and something that a lot of the alums and former players of this team talk about was the culture and how strong it was with winning. And that's a main focus for General Manager Tom Fitzgerald right now, as he's at the end of a rebuild and really needs to make a splash with this team this upcoming year.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking before we came on the air, the culture that the Colorado Avalanche had built, you know, with Joe Sakic and the coach and the players. And that's what we have to recreate here, as well as bring in some talent. You got to have that as well as the culture. But it's going in the right direction.
It is. Now, the payoff has to come.
Yeah.
Patience runs out at some point. And I think last year was disappointing for everyone involved with the New Jersey Devils. And the point of this show and what's taking place in Montreal is the draft. Some help maybe this year, certainly help down the line. But the situation couldn't be more different between what Montreal is experiencing and what the Devils are experiencing. Montreal is bottoming out. And so whoever they pick, fine, they'll get a good player, but it's part of a longer-term process. And that's why I think if Slafkovsky is gone, the Devils are going to look to fill an immediate hole, because I think Slafkovsky can fill that. So trade the second pick, because there is pressure to show that the draft of a Bratt, the draft of a Heischer, the draft of a Jack Hughes, not in vain. Like, we've had high enough draft picks that it's got to start to come together.
And the culture's got to start winning, right, folks?
Yep,
like
that's what it's all about.
You can talk, these young guys have got to feel the experience of a 5 or 7, 8 game winning streak where they control it. You know what I mean? And you only can build that kind of winning culture by winning. So you're right, we all agree. Slafkovsky would be my first choice, but if not, then Fitzgerald has to make a trade that brings in someone who could make some impact this year, whether it's winger or defense, but also be a character guy who can bring that to the dressing room.
Yesterday, General Manager Tom Fitzgerald talked about some of these topics, including talking about how he has given qualifying offers to all Devils RFAs. But Matt, I know you were watching this call remotely. What were some of your biggest takeaways from what Fitzgerald said in yesterday's press conference?
A lot had been out there anyway. I think it was just him putting it together in a central forum, so to speak. There was nothing really there that surprised me. I think that what he said regarding anything being possible at this draft really speaks to what this draft is all about. There's no argument Nico or Nolan. Right. There's no argument Tyler or Taylor. There's no Tavares Hedman. It could be anybody. It could be Slafkovsky. It could be Wright. Montreal is on the clock. They'll announce their pick in just a moment. And then that changes everything. Could be Logan Cooley. Could be Cutter Gauthier. It could be Nemec. It could be Jiricek. I mean, who knows who's going to go in the top 5? And it all starts when the announcement of the number 1 pick is made, and then we're off to the races.
Which is going to be shortly.
Yeah, Kent Hughes is at the podium speaking to the gathered audience at Bell Center, and there's a buzz there. I was following on social media, and I guess when the PA announcer mentioned Shane Wright's name earlier, big cheer went up. When Slafkovsky's name was mentioned,
flat.
Muted. I don't know if
Let's
Montreal.
hope that's an indication.
I don't know
right?
if Kent Hughes can be, can take that into consideration. We'll see.
There's one name for certain that Kent Hughes is not saying right now, and it's his son, Jack Hughes, who is available at this year's draft. It is another Jack, so don't get confused. It's not the first overall pick back in 2019, but the Jack Hughes 2.0 plays at Northeastern.
And we should mention that Bob McKenzie, who is as insider as they get, even though he's now retired, is reporting that it is Slafkovsky who will be going to Montreal.
Well, here's the thing with Slafkovsky. Of all the players in the draft, I think he has the biggest upside.
And it is. They just made the announcement.
They just took him?
Yep.
So
you rats. I never liked Montreal. Of course, they used to beat us all the time. But I like them less now.
Winger Juraj Slafkovsky is the first overall pick in the 2022 NHL draft, going to Montreal, which causes a lot of changes considering going into the combine, everyone had center Shane Wright as the number 1 pick. However, based off of conversations and testing and various other factors that we don't know about behind the scenes, Montreal decided that Slafkovsky was the right person.
But you're drafting for potential.
Yes.
That guy has more potential. At 6'4", 230, and some of the moves and shot and all that, he has the most potential. And obviously Montreal saw it that way too.
Yeah, and I think that the recency bias where Wright did not have the kind of year people had hoped for, perhaps even himself, and then Slafkovsky scores against men in the Olympics, scores against men.
MVP of the Olympics.
Right, in the World Championship, didn't score as many goals as he did in the Olympics, but still scored. And I think people looked at it, obviously Montreal looked at it, put it all into the package and said, he's our guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I love the guy, because I just know those wingers coming off the wing and sniping. And it looks like he can score goals individually, which is what you need. And like Jack Hughes is a great team scorer. But we don't have a guy yet that can take the puck and just, like Yager or somebody used to do and go in and score. But, okay, well, let's move on because
before we move on, I have
milk has been spilt.
I have a trivia question, though,
I'm
for
crying.
you both. Here's a trivia question. Maybe fans at home tweet at us if you know the answer. But Slafkovsky is now the highest drafted Slovakian player in country history.
Oh, good for him.
Who was the previous highest drafted? His first name is Marion. I'll give you that hint.
Gaborik.
Yeah.
Yep. And he was
Minnesota
third
Wild.
overall in 2000. So now
Wow.
Slafkovsky makes history. Not only did he help Slovakia get the bronze medal at the Olympics, scoring 7 goals in that tournament, winning MVP, most goals, most points, but now he's made history as the first overall pick for his country.
Yeah, good for him. You mentioned at the top, it's a night of dreams. When his NHL dream began, I don't know. Right, it's a little different for some European-born players, but as he moved along in his career and stepped up, he has a chance to play in the best league in the world.
But here's what I'd say. Good for him, except he would have been happier here in New Jersey, but he doesn't know that. So I'm saying,
the spotlight
it's good for him,
won't be
but
as bright as it is in Montreal.
What's that?
The spotlight is not as bright in New Jersey as it is in
Right.
Montreal. The fans want as much success, but Montreal,
Yeah,
That's it.
but we're farther ahead in the development.
That's also a good point. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to carry that team for a while. But anyway, now it is interesting. What are we thinking? What's Fitzy doing?
Well, I went out not so much on a limb, but I thought that they would trade the pick.
Yeah,
at least offers will be entertained,
Yes.
and I think that's a possibility. I think the Devils have other needs, whether it's a goalie to come in along with Mackenzie Blackwood, whatever Jonathan Bernier can give them. We know that there's another goalie coming. Maybe the Devils can get that goalie, move back a spot.
Yeah, no, there's all kinds of possibilities. But to me, it's got to be a defenseman that can play in the top four.
Well, it could be that as well.
Right,
yeah.
it could be a defense. He's got to play in the top four, and then or a winger that has some skill, but maybe his salary's a little bit too high or something. But we need some help this year now.
Devils on the clock. What will General Manager Tom Fitzgerald do? Plenty of options you can trade. You can pick the next best available player for the Devils. And that's a point I want to hit home with you, Chico. We were talking about this off the air. We hear all the time, next best available player. However, you were a former scout. As a scout, what do you look for when it comes to best next available player?
Well, it's got to fit your need. Like we were talking, Fitzy says we want to pick the best player that fits us. So Simon Nemec is a really good defenseman, right? I haven't seen him enough to say, can he play top four? But if they project that he could play top four, not next year, they may go with him. But I don't think they're going to take a forward. I don't. And there's some good ones. I don't think they're going to take a forward, but I could be wrong. Instead of taking a forward, I think, as Maddie's been saying, they will trade it.
Yeah, I don't know that Logan Cooley or Cutter Gauthier fills what the Devils need.
Yeah.
Now, there is this balance, right? A GM is always really worried about the present.
Oh, yeah.
That's how they're judged. But he also is a caretaker and projecting to the future. But because of where the Devils have found themselves, coming off the year they had, which we don't need to regurgitate, but 7 goalies can't happen and expect success. So there's a little more pressure. And Fitzy knows that. They've got money. They've got cap space. They've got some assets. This is one. So do you look at the future and say Cutter Gauthier, who's committed to Boston College, we'll let him develop for a year or two? Well, Fitzy hopes to be here in 2 years, but he knows there's pressure. So that's why I think the pick is going to be traded.
Be traded, yeah. I mean, 2 coaches were fired this year by the Devils. I think all the Devils tried hard. The coaches did their job. We just didn't have enough of the right stuff to win consistently. And that's what he's thinking about now. He can't be thinking, 3 years down the road. 3 years ago, that's where we were, right? With Jack Hughes and now. But now we fast forward and we've got to put a real competitive team on the ice next year. So I think you're right.
And free agency may provide that answer. And so perhaps as the scouts finished their reports last night, there was one little get-together today just to confirm what they had decided finally. They may have said, look, in free agency, we'll target this guy and this guy. In a trade, we'll target this guy. So let's get a pick that will help us down the line and fill an organizational need. And we think he's the best player available, whether it's a Gauthier or it's Logan Cooley or it's Shane Wright.
Well, that's a good possibility, Matty, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I'm just
but
throwing that out as a possibility. No,
We're trying
agree.
to throw out the scenarios, and I'm just going with, we've got to go to plan B now, and it's got to be somebody that can help next year. I think Mackenzie Blackwood's going to come back as a different goalie. We're going to be better there, and our defense, hopefully, I just don't know how it's going to look. Like, we're talking about free agency, and we're not going to talk about that tonight, but there's going to be some changes there. There's got to be somebody on the wing that can bring a cultural change because he can just score goals, right? He can score individual goals. And so those are the things. I know that's all talked about, but it's not easy to acquire. But I think trading that second pick, Manny and Catherine, I think it's about a 90% chance they're going to do that.
And for us, we have no idea what is actually happening behind the scenes. But let us stress that this is a scenario the Devils have prepared for. This is not something that was surprising. When you go into a draft, you know that someone could take the player that you want before you. And you know that maybe you don't have a scout who loved that player, love him so much anymore. So you go into the draft. Okay, if this person's taken, who do we take next? And that's not just for the first round either. You have a board that says, here's the order of the players that we like the most. So when our pick comes up next, if our guy who is second on that board is there for our second round pick, we're going to take him. And that's where actually the Devils have surprised people in the past a couple years back when they had their third first round pick and they took defenseman Shakir Mukhamadullin, who to a lot of teams was not as known, but the Devils said, we want him. And since we thought he would be around later, we're not sure anymore. Let's take him now.
Well, I think we take the trade off the board because the Devils staff is on the stage.
Okay.
So they're going to make a pick.
Okay.
We can't legally show it, folks. I'm sure you're watching it at home on a second screen. But ownership, Tom Fitzgerald, his staff, Marty Brodeur, the great Montreal native, is going to make the pick. So we'll find out who it will be.
And Tommy Fitzgerald's holding a jersey, which will tell you that there's somebody's name on there. So I guess I wasn't right. I guess they're going to pick someone.
Yeah, it looks like they've decided to go that way.
And for Fitzgerald, this is a big moment. This is his first in-person draft as a general manager. Of course, as an AGM, he had been on that stage in the past. But for Fitzgerald, this was his first opportunity to be on the stage, show everyone I'm the guy in charge with New Jersey. And it looks
it's a great moment.
Our new assistant general manager, Kate Madigan, who is the first woman AGM in franchise history, will be making the pick. She's at the podium right now. Martin Brodeur made, of course, the introductions for the Devils and probably thanked in French and English.
The whispers are it's Nemec.
Nemec. So defenseman Simon Nemec is picked second overall. He will join the Devils, and he's a 6-foot, 190-pound defenseman. A lot of people like that he is one to get into the offensive zone. He's an offensive-minded defenseman. He's very good at playmaking due to his puck handling as well.
We're looking at, sorry, excuse me. Okay, see what he did there? He didn't just shoot it. He went top shelf, right? Now he's going to do another one here. Oh, you're going to see this here. Like he's aware. Come to him, boom. He's not just shooting it. Good eye-hand coordination there. And I think we've got one more bunch of him scoring. Number 5. And I didn't see exactly how that went in, but that was maybe a tip. He drove the net. There he's number 3 right there. Bang! Pretty nice one-timer, Matt. You wouldn't mind describing a few of those, huh?
Yeah, no, I would love to be able to do that. What he's got is a 200-foot game is what everybody's saying.
Yeah.
He can score a bit. He controls play. He's smart. He sees the ice very well. And he's good defensively. They have gotten a well-rounded right-hand shot defenseman that probably won't make the team this year. But Luke Hughes, if Nemec pans out the way everyone hopes now, you start to think about what the possibilities are in a very short period of time.
You're right. I mean, two-way guy, he would be a good fit for Luke Hughes, right? I mean, that's what you're going to need, somebody who move the puck, but really is conscientious defensively. Wow. And I don't know, Maddie, I don't know enough about him. Probably can't play next year, but I would think they're going to really hope that sooner rather than later.
Nemec is playing with the top professional league right now in Slovakia. So
in Slovakia, which, with all due respect, right? He's not playing in Sweden. He's not playing, in Germany. He's not playing in one of the top leagues. So I think he probably needs a year of development.
He did have a strong first full season with the top team, and he was most known for his postseason play. He helped his team make it all the way to the championship. They did lose in that. However, he had 26 points this season for Nitra, which was the club he played for in Slovakia, and that's the third most points by any 18 or under player in history of the league.
Yeah, you know what we don't know, which I should have checked? I wonder how many minutes he played a game. I wonder if he's up in the 20s. You know, it sounds like he was a pretty important part of that machine.
And the other thing we'll say is clearly we weren't given any inside information because we were pretty off on the fact that, at least I was, that they were going to trade the pick, right?
No.
They went with the defenseman, although we did bring up his name.
Okay, but how about this? We got the free agency draft. A lot of trades made. That tells me they didn't fill their immediate need. Watch that. That's going to be exciting, right?
Yes, but what I was also going to say, someone who was involved in the process is the best I can say. So the conversation among the scouting staff for the Devils was, this guy could be a Sergei Gonchar type of player.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've heard that. Yeah.
So, he's not a Hall of Famer, but
no, if he could be that, yeah, we'd be happy.
Not everybody who gets drafted in the first round is a Hall of Famer, right? I mean,
no.
You can get a guy like Gonchar, he could score.
That's true.
I know, it's a big if. It's a big step.
Yeah, well, you got to compare him to somebody. Why not? Well, we're having a fun night. Hopes are never been higher. I find that the three most anticipatory nights for fans where joy is, one like Colorado, if you can win the cup the next game, there's a lot of excitement. Right. Second is, if you remember we made the playoffs, how exciting it was when your team finally reaches the playoffs. That's a great anticipatory joy because you don't know what's going to happen. And then the draft night, right? That's the other night where you just, let's think the best, Maddie, and Sergei Gonchar, I'd be happy with that.
And while it is unfair, I think Nico Hischier can be like Patrice Bergeron. That's not fair to either player necessarily.
No.
A Hall of Famer for sure, and a player you're going to compare me to a Hall of Famer. But what are you going to compare him to? A schlub, a guy who played 2 years and washed out after 47 games? So if you're going to look at Nemec, you're not going to say necessarily, well, he's going to be Paul Coffey, or he's going to, be a Victor Hedman, size difference. But you look at a guy who had a really good, long NHL career, produced.
I would hope, for me, I like Gonchar, but I hope he's a little bit better defensively. Because Gonchar was good. I mean, he was fine. But so he may go past that. Because we haven't compared him to the Hall of Famer. Right? So you compare him to a Hall of Famer and thinking, careful, I don't know if he can reach that level. But Sergei Gonchar could be that or maybe more, right? That's worth thinking.
So it's a difficult position to break in.
Yep.
Defense. So no real chance he has, do you think, of making the team out of camp?
I don't think so.
You've got Hamilton right, Severson right-hand shot.
Yep.
You had Subban. I don't know if he's coming back or not.
He's got Graves. I mean, do you want to play him fifth or sixth? I think Siegenthaler's going to make a jump up. So you're right, man. And Catherine, I don't think he could fit in and get the number of minutes and the roles that he needs to develop next year. But, I mean, if something happens and somebody's traded and there's a spot, I mean, there's a lot of talk that, one defenseman may be traded from the Devils. I don't want to mention names. That wouldn't be fair. So, I think the game plan here is not just for tonight, but it's for tonight and next week when the free agency. And I just want to say this. I know this for a fact. The Devils put together their 35 top players, one after the other, just like you were saying. Now, when it goes to the one or two, that's different. But now when you get in the second round, it's just picking off, okay, who do we have next? Oh, he's gone. No, he's available. Then you're right, Catherine and Maddie. Then they just go down the list. So the second and third round will be exciting for the Devils as well.
Yeah, they have 8 more picks.
8 more picks over the next day. And we want you to remember that we will have Nemec's availability live from Montreal coming up on the show as soon as he makes it to the podium. Of course, this is an exciting and very busy moment for the defenseman. He's meeting everyone on stage. He's shaking hands. He's getting his jersey. He's meeting the people that have picked him to join their franchise. And with this defenseman, he also helped make history because I'm pretty sure if Slafkovsky was the highest ranked Slovakian player to be drafted, now you have number 1, number 2. That really shows the growth of the sport in Slovakia with the top 2 players from that country going in this draft.
You're right, Catherine, but 6-7 years ago, because I've gone to Slovakia for 20 years doing it, was sliding down. Yes. Even the Czech, right, they couldn't hardly compete in World Juniors. And now, I don't know if this has ever happened. 1-2 pick in the NHL draft out of Slovakia. That's good news for that country.
Yeah, Craig Ramsey's done a great job at the men's level.
Yep.
Yeah, he's
as their head coach, and Miros Tan is the one in charge of the Slovakian Hockey Federation now, and they have turned things around, that's for sure.
Well, they went through that communist thing where everything was paid for, because I've been there, and then you had to buy your own equipment, buy your own ice. So they had a little dip, but obviously they're back.
The Devils' second overall pick at the 2022 draft is at the podium in Montreal, or he will be at the podium in Montreal. We will take a very quick break. Enjoy this video of Dougie Hamilton releasing some of the schedule dates.
Exit 7A, Hamilton, Six Flags. We're going to Six Flags.
Do you like the Caps? Are we best friends? Since you're security at the park, would you say you're a park ranger?
Yeah.
Boo. Hey, Marty. Come on, look at these New York drivers. Boston Tea Party. Get it?
A penguin?
We're about to be shot out like a cannon.
This one's pretty obvious.
Verizon is going ultra with 5G ultra wideband in many more cities. Mindy, with up to 10 times faster speeds, she can download a movie in minutes or a song in seconds.
Yep.
Verizon is going ultra so you can do more.
We promised them hockey, and hockey they will have.
The Devils make the playoffs for the first time in their history. The championship to New Jersey. The Devils win the Stanley Cup. Marty Brodeur is the winningest goaltender in the NHL. It's over. In overtime, Jack Hughes wins it.
Welcome back to your live draft show presented by Verizon here in the PlayUp studio in New Jersey. I'm Catherine Bogart with Matt Loughlin and Chico Resch. Arizona Coyotes just made the third overall pick, picking Logan Cooley, a forward out of the USA NTDP program. He's the third overall pick because the Devils decide to pick defenseman Simon Nemec at second overall. Chico, I want you to break down some of the goals that Nemec had this past season, particularly with the Slovakian national team. And even though he's a defenseman, he is very offensive-minded with his game.
But there's different kinds of offense. What I liked from the clips that we saw, he was safe. It wasn't like he's jumping up the ice, getting out of position, right here in the middle of the ice. Look at that, boom, upstairs. He sees the open ice. He doesn't take the puck, guys, and just try to beat people, get it picked off, and go the other way. He's a guy that will add to the offensive attack. He's a guy who reads the play. And that leads me to believe that if his first thought still, my defense is really my strength and my offensive thrust is my secondary strength, then that's good. Because Maddie and I, we love Damon Severson. But when Damon Severson, he kept telling us he was an offensive defenseman. And I'm thinking, no, Damon, you're not. You're okay, but you got to play defense first. And he's gotten that now. And so that's what Simon Nemec looks like. Very, very calculated offensive defenseman.
He's good breakout. He's the activator. So I think he brings, he's not a goal scorer, at least hasn't shown that.
Right.
But he's been a guy who has driven, if you will, some offense. So I think, again, I mentioned earlier, 200-foot game. I think they got a good one.
Well, like Luke Hughes is going to initiate, right? He's not that type of player. He's not going to take the puck and initiate it. He's going to complement it, like with a breakout. So the goals we saw were all impressive. That's all I know. And if the Devils like him that much to take him second overall, he's got a great future.
We can tell you all about Nemec, but let's actually hear from the defenseman himself. He's live at a podium in Montreal after the Devils picked him 2nd overall.
Cares about my little brother.
How do you describe your game? What kind of game do you play?
So I think I'm two-way defenseman, a little bit better in offensive zone with good hockey IQ, hockey sense, and I can be a good player to the power play.
Is that where you feel your big strength is in the power play?
Yeah, I feel very great when I play power play.
When you talked to the Devils at the Combine, did you get a good sense that they really liked you as a player?
Yeah, when I was with the Devils organization, I felt very great, and I told with Thomas Tatar, and they say me a couple of things about your organization and everything, but now it's great.
What has Thomas told you?
Devils is great organization, and he said them about me, I think, a good thing, and now they draft me.
Were you looking at your projection? Were you going to go back to Slovakia for next year? Are you looking at...
No, I want to go to the North America.
Come over here?
Yeah.
And are you going to next week's development camp too? I don't know if you've
Yeah,
talked
I
about
think
that
so.
yet.
I think so.
You looking forward to kind of meeting some of the other
Yeah.
prospects, meeting some of the players, get a feel?
Yeah. Now I don't know what happens.
Good, come on.
So I'm late to the party here, but just what does it feel like to go number 2?
Amazing moment for my family, for me, for everybody in Slovakia, and amazing night because we have first overall and second overall. I think I lost my words for.
What does it mean? What does it say about Slovak hockey, though? You guys are the 2 highest picks.
Finally, we draft first overall and second, and amazing year. Last year was really good for Slovakia. We won bronze medal. We were second in Hlinka, and now first overall and second overall. Amazing year.
Say about your eye, just how he's sort of taken off, especially after the Olympics.
Yeah, we know each other when we were kids, and we were in more tournaments in like PV or more national tournaments, and now he's first overall and me second, and I'm very happy.
What do you think it's like back home now? I know it's different time zone, but or when people wake up and they realize that you guys have gone 1 and 2.
Yeah, we were popular now, but I don't know what will happen when we came home.
What does this mean for hockey in Slovakia to have this accomplishment? I mean, it's a very proud hockey country, but a small one. And I'm wondering what this means for.
Yeah, small, but we have really good players, and now more players. More players will be better, like where, and everybody proud, and we proud too.
You won a bronze medal with Slavkovsky. Can you talk a bit about what he is as a player and how good he is?
He's a really good player, and he's the best player in this draft, and Montreal selected him.
Surprised when you heard your name?
Me? Yeah, I was a little bit surprised, but when they said Uri's name, I was a little bit nervous because New Jersey have more centers, and they need defensemen.
So I know that your mom is not here, but you were able to call her right after you were drafted. Can you just tell me a little bit about what that conversation was like, and obviously not here, but to have that conversation right away?
Yeah, she's cried, and she's really happy because this is now we living our dream, and when I was kid I always dreaming about NHL, and now is step up.
So it's like a dream for both of you to be at this moment.
Yeah. As a hockey player, I think I'm two-way defenseman with a good hockey sense, and I feel really comfortable in power plays. I think I will be playing next year in North America, and maybe American Hockey League will be best option for me. But I won't play a couple games in the NHL.
What excites you about that opportunity to move over to North America and start adapting your game to this type of game?
I think it will be hard because life and hockey is too different because rinks are smaller like in Europe, but we will see.
When you're going through the draft, were you looking at, you mentioned like the centers and knowing that the Devils had a lot of good centers there. Were you looking at teams like, okay, who needs a defenseman kind of thing of my caliber?
Oh, I'm looking for New Jersey, Arizona, maybe Seattle, but now I'm really happy I'm New Jersey players.
What did your mom say about being number 2?
Nothing. She lost the words like me. I can drink this? Yeah?
We can speak in Slovak?
Devils' second overall pick, Simon Nemec, the defenseman from Slovakia, helps make history going 1 and 2 for Slovakia, a great country. And a very interesting thing to note from what Nemec just said, he said, I want to come to North America to play next year. Why would he want to come to North America instead of staying in Slovakia and playing pro hockey there?
Because he wants to play the best.
Right, and he wants the rink, too. He talked about the size of the rink. It's a different game, right? And I think that's the biggest thing. And is that not the next step for a young kid?
Absolutely. So
his English wasn't bad.
No.
I mean, but you got to learn some English. You got to learn the culture. The dressing rooms are different. So
yeah, and he'll be joining a Utica team that went to the playoffs. If he doesn't make the Devils, let's just say Utica, that went to the playoffs, that has a lot of youth defensemen, some of whom might find themselves on the Devils this year. If not, he'll join a locker room that's got young experience on the blue line. I think coming to North America is a great thing. And he talked about the development camp. Development camp starts Monday, and there'll be a 3-on-3. I know there'll be an inter-squad scrimmage, and so we'll get a first look at him. It's not. I don't believe it's open to the public. I just should say that.
Oh yeah.
But I think maybe the 3-on-3 is.
But there'll be information on NewJerseyDevils.com about
what
is open to the public.
I will be here, but that's part of my job. So.
Well, let's take Alexander Holtz. You need, the North American game is so different than the European game. Right. And you can't learn it unless you come over. I mean, even Alexander Holtz, I'll bet you if he really told us some of the little intricacies that he noticed about the game here rather than back home have really helped him. And, especially for a defenseman, right? So that's a no-brainer. If he'd say, I don't want to come, that wouldn't be good.
No. Right. No, that would not be a good sign. So he'll not likely be Zdeno Chara because he's not as tall, and it's also one of the great players of this generation. But we were looking it up a little bit. Eric Chernak is
very good defenseman,
Slovakian defenseman for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Lubomir Visnovsky, Martin Fehervary, who plays for Washington, he's Slovakian. So there have been and are a handful of defensemen in the National Hockey League who hail from Slovakia.
Yeah, and it was nice. He talked about the development of hockey, and we talked about it a little bit. But, even in you were talking about Cooley growing up in Arizona. With Matthews making it, that builds the grassroots of hockey. Yeah. And that's what Slovakia needs. So you can imagine over there, it's in the middle of the night, so they're probably not up watching this.
They'll wake up to the news.
They will wake up to
the
I assume his mom is in Slovakia, maybe on vacation somewhere else in Europe when she called. But either way, she stayed up late, and there's a party going on somewhere. Shane Wright did go to Seattle, by the way, and so his wait is over, and good for him. You do hate it in any draft. I mean, the ones that are obvious, the NHL, the NBA, and the NFL. the baseball draft's a little different, but of the major sports, those three, there's always somebody who's sitting there so excited about what opportunity he thinks is about to come his way, and he just has to wait. But you know what?
Yeah.
4th overall.
Not bad. And you know what?
Not
If the
bad.
Devils had needed a centerman, maybe.
Right.
You know, it got. We talked about this year is as much about a fit
Right.
as it is about, like, there's not this clear-cut great player
Yeah.
that's going to just take your team and going to fly with them. So
Yeah, so the BPA, best player available, doesn't really necessarily hold here.
Right. No.
And so Nemec, a team that, wants to shore up the defense. I thought forward was a spot they needed to get a little bit more depth organizationally. But how do you win? Back out. Yes,
Yeah.
we want forwards to score goals. We need some wingers. There's no question about it. But we'll see what the free agency brings for the Devils, or trades, or both.
Now, the other thing, Nemec, as I'm listening to, he sees himself as a power play defenseman, which would be interesting. You know, you hope Dougie Hamilton fills that role. Luke Hughes is going to want to be on the power play. I'm just saying, if he really has that, because I haven't seen him play, if he feels he's got that kind of skill, that's a nice asset that I underestimate. So it sounds like he's bringing a really nice package, right? And it's something that all Devil fans should be excited about. And so you can't, when would we see him? Will he go to the Buffalo Combine?
I assume he would, right? The Prospects tournament in
Perfect.
Buffalo.
'Cause then-
Devils will be participating again.
Yeah, that's probably the first time the Devils fans might get to see him play a game, right?
Yep, or the inter-squad scrimmage that may or may not be open to the public. I think
Yeah.
it is.
Okay,
I think we
that's
sent
what I
something
thought.
up to red and black members. I'm sorry for going there, but yeah. But in against another team?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. In Buffalo. And who's going to be there?
Yeah.
We're going to be there.
Devils TV is going to bring some riveting play-by-play for you. That's in when? Is September?
September, yep.
September,
Yep.
mid-September.
Middle September.
There'll be more teams this year in addition to the 3 previous teams that had been there the past year. Of course, with COVID, there wasn't a development camp. The Buffalo tournament got scratched one year. It was back last year, but it was only 3 teams, including the Devils. This year, we're hearing that Montreal will be down, potentially Pittsburgh for 1 game. So it will allow the Devils to play some other teams that their prospects might not have faced in the past. But before we go back to the future and Nemec, I do want to talk about development camp, because we didn't have development camp for the past few years. And for the average fan who doesn't know much about the development side, why is this camp so critical to have in the off season every single year?
Well, just for me, one thing is it's a commitment for the players, right? They can't be home doing their thing. They're starting to find out what the pro games are like. It's very demanding. It's time consuming. And what I like is you're always being evaluated, right? And there's going to be scouts, Devil scouts watching and writing things down. I mean, it's just the beginning of a whole new world, I think, for those young players. And for some of them, they're just trying to get a spot, right? They're trying to win a spot and maybe get a contract. So it's a pretty competitive atmosphere for those. What is it, 2 days, 3 days?
It's a whole week. It's Monday through Friday.
Oh, 5 days they're on the ice? Okay.
But it's not all going to be on the ice. There's a lot of orientation activities and getting to know each other and things like that. But they'll start to learn the Devils' way. They'll start to know about the Devils' organization. They'll start to know about what the approach is from the top down. And I think it is a good thing. You're a pro now. Whether or not you've actually signed a contract or not, whether or not you'll be an NHLer, all that remains to be determined.
Yeah. The other thing is, for these young players, this isn't the NHL, but that level is even higher. And that's when I talk to young players, I can't believe how just that level is so much better than where I played. And that's not even the NHL level. So it's just conditioning them to just see the whole new world as a pro player. And it's demanding, it's tough. And you know what? You don't perform consistently at the NHL level or even the American League level without really putting a lot into it. Nobody's going to go there and dominate on their skill. And so it's a good learning experience.
And as Fitzy pointed out yesterday, no Luke Hughes. He will not be with the Devils at the camp because he's prepping for the World Juniors and his sophomore year at the University of Michigan. I was disappointed to hear that. I expected that, given the fact that the World Juniors have been moved up, but I would have liked to have seen him.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned, I didn't know this yesterday, he announced that he was going back to Michigan, which we all agree is probably the best route for him for one more year, and so that's fallen into place. And as much as I'm still disappointed we didn't get Slafkovsky, that's the last time I'll say it, because I just wanted to see somebody fill the net. This has been a really good draft so far, and just a good environment. With the development camp coming back, and the Devils haven't named their 2 assistant coaches, but that's going to happen soon. And then you're going to have, the free agency and the trading, the things that are going to go on. Oh, you mentioned there was just a recent trade, Chicago.
Yeah, Kirby Dach has been traded to Montreal. So they got rid of Dach, who, I'm not sure what he'll become.
Yeah.
Right? But he was a high pick. And Alex DeBrincat, they traded him to Ottawa. So, man, they are just setting that old barn on fire, aren't they? It is not. They are not refurbishing. They're not shoring up a little bit the second floor. They are tearing it down, not only to the studs, right down to the foundation, and starting all over, aren't they?
Well, you're right, Matt. It shows you, in their impression, the resiliency of the fans. If I'm a Hawk fan, I'm saying, okay, if you're tearing it down, I'm going to just take a little reprieve here. I'll come back in 3 years. But you know what I mean? It's a real risky thing to do. Arizona's doing that, and so is Chicago now. But, it's the Hawks, right? You put them on a pedestal. I love the Blackhawks, and to see them be decimated, it's tough.
That sound that you're hearing long distance is Patrick Kane knocking on Kyle Davidson's door saying, "Get me out of here."
Yeah,
and Jonathan Toews might not be too far behind, but I don't know at his number who necessarily would take him. He's a diminished player, Jonathan Toews.
Yeah.
Patrick Kane can still play.
Yeah, and score.
And score.
Fans,
hold on. The Devils.
I don't
Devils
go there. I'm thinking the same thing.
Scoring winger.
No, he's not coming to the Devils,
I
but
don't think so.
Anyway.
Leave that comment on the table because we have Nemec in an exclusive one-on-one interview with Amanda Stein from NJD.TV, live from Montreal. Here it is.
I'm Amanda Stein here at the NHL entry draft with the Devils' first selection of the night, or the only selection tonight because it is the first round. Second overall, Simon Nemec. How does this feel for you? You're going number 2. One of your friends goes number 1. What has these moments been like?
I was surprised when they said my name, and now I'm really excited. And my one of the best friends, he's first pick, but I'm second overall, and it's great.
Did you think that maybe you were going in that spot?
No, no.
So what went through your mind when you hear the team say your name? Do you believe it?
I still don't believe it. What happened now?
What was it like when you were going through the draft process leading up to this? When you met with New Jersey, the things that you heard that you liked, that maybe they liked about you?
I think I had one meeting with New Jersey, but I played with Tomáš Tatar in the national team, and he said me really good things about Devils organization.
Now, there's another Slovak player. What do you think this moment means for your country, for Slovakia, seeing that 1-2 for the first time in league history?
Yeah, I think this is a great moment, and it now write history, and we are waiting for next pick Philip Messer, and I think we'll be further round, and it will be a great night in Slovak.
Now, for people who don't know who you are as a player, as a defenseman, can you describe to me what your biggest qualities are, your best qualities are?
I think my best quality is hockey sense and skating, and I can create some chances for my teammates, and I'm two-way defenseman, I think.
What does the next step look like for you? You've played in the Slovak League, you've played in the pro leagues. What do you want to see next from yourself, particularly next year?
I want to play in North America next year. This is my cup. This is my goals.
And what sort of things do you have to do to kind of adapt your game, or what do you look forward to through that process?
I think we will see in the camp, but maybe a couple games in the NHL.
Now, I know that you called your mom right after you got selected. You were emotional about it before. Yeah. What does it mean to you, your family, to have this second overall pick as your name?
Yeah, when I was kid, I always dreaming about NHL draft, and all my family is really exciting, and my mom is now she's at home, but we called now, and she's really happy.
You were saying before, you know, you knew that there were a lot of centers in New Jersey, a lot of forwards up there. They could use a couple defensemen. You happy that you're in the mix now?
Yeah, I'm really happy, and I will enjoy it all Devils fans.
So now that there's you and Thomas Tatar, you think there's going to be a lot more Devils fans in Slovakia now?
Yeah.
I know your friend went first and he's a Montreal Canadian, but...
Yeah, I think me and Tomáš Tatar, we are good friends, and I'm happy I can play with other Slovak players.
Well, congratulations and enjoy the rest of the night.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Amanda. The Devils now go into the second day and the second round of the draft tomorrow starting at 11 a.m. They have 8 picks on day 2. What is the game plan for New Jersey heading into the busiest day of the draft?
Well, what did Tommy Fitzgerald, you mentioned it earlier. What did he say his attitude's going to be about picking what?
The best possible player for the Devils. Not necessarily how the draft experts rank it. If you follow what the draft experts said, they had Nemec 4, 5, 6 all over the board. But for the Devils, he was their number 2 guy.
Yeah.
So we'll look for that. We'll look for the next Jesper Bratt, Yegor Sharangovich, 6th and 5th round, respectfully, and see who will come from that list. I mean, frankly, a lot of these names to the overwhelming majority of the fans will be unknowns.
Yes.
So I'll be curious to see the path it goes, whether or not they look to fill organizational needs, or they're just going to take the best player available. We've talked about both, but we'll see what happens. I'm still not ruling out a trade. You know how it goes. Trades, once they start happening, the Rangers made a trade with Colorado today, Ottawa and Chicago, Montreal and Chicago. Once the wheels start turning, sometimes it's hard to get that train to slow down. So who knows? The Devils could be busy with some trades too.
Right. You know, like, let's be honest. They still need somebody who can score. Like, see, the unknown still to me is Alexander Holtz. Now, I am not projecting what he's going to be. If they were sure that he was going to be a guy that's coming up next year and playing regular, going to score goals, maybe you wouldn't be so intent on adding another winger or two in these next rounds. But I think they have to draft a winger or two and probably a defenseman or two if they like him. And then after that, you could get a specialty player. Maddie and I are talking. I don't know what you think. I don't know that they're going to draft a goalie. I don't think they're going to bring another goalie for the future into the organization because they've got a couple that potentially should one day be NHLers. So I think it's going to be some couple wingers and some defensemen, and then some unknown specialty player. You know what I mean? Then you go to some specialty players. Maybe could there be a rugged guy? You know, I know Fitzy wants the team to be a little tougher, a little grittier. Maybe you go for a guy like that, you know, to complement Miles Wood or somebody. But it's going to be exciting. What did you say, 8 picks?
8 picks, including 3 in the 4th round. And Matt, I do want to hammer home this point that Fitzgerald has said he will do whatever is best for the Devils, including trading players, trading picks. But there's only a couple of players that are really off the table, which he confirmed yesterday. Jesper Bratt is one of them, and you have to assume that Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier are 2 of the other untouchables.
And
yes.
Dawson
Mercer.
Yes.
And I hope we get some news soon on Jesper Bratt. The Devils, you know, Fitzy said, Devils made a good offer. It's on the table of Jesper and his agent, and now they have to wait to see to get a counteroffer, what have you. I think that answers a lot of questions, too, moving forward. I think he's terrific. This was his best year by far. I'd like to see it get it done long term. And then we'll see how things tumble with some of the other RFAs and what they do. What are they going to do to Pavel Zacha?
Right.
Now, I will predict, well, I was 1 for 2. Like, right? I predicted, no, Slavkovsky, I said he should be our first pick, but Montreal snarked in there. Then I thought they were going to trade him. But I do think, I'm making a prediction, that Fitzy will trade somebody just for shaking things up, just for a new look, a new feel in the dressing room. They're going to trade somebody.
There is also the opportunity when it comes to goaltending of Colorado Avalanche Stanley Cup goaltender Darcy Kemper. When Colorado traded for Alexander Georgiev, it took away the cap space to keep Kemper. So that's someone that could be on the radar for the Devils when looking for a goaltender, because there's not many netminders out there that are available that could be a 1A or 1B, which is what this team needs, especially after the bad luck at the goaltending situation the past 2 seasons.
They need somebody healthy back there to play alongside Mackenzie Blackwood. That's it. So that's why I think the options are not glorious.
No.
But Jack Campbell played a full year, and he's got warts. That's fine. But the Devils need somebody. John Gibson, he has fallen on some hard times lately. He's under contract, but his time in Anaheim may be up. So Billy Husso. I mean, there are choices. There's no Marty Brodeur.
No.
There's no Ken Dryden out there. Should I go back to some of the
But
older
the
guys?
unknown is, and we don't know, we're not in the medical field. I'd like to know, okay, Jonathan Bernier, is he coming back? He's at $4 million. Like, you can't go out and get Kemper if he's going to be on the books. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
Fitzgerald did discuss this yesterday in his press conference. The whole press conference is on the YouTube channel and also on NewJerseyDevils.com. But Fitzgerald said right now they need to bring someone in for Bernier because he's taking longer to heal. However, he will address the Bernier cap situation with a goaltender when Bernier comes back. So that is something that's a very fluid situation from what Fitzgerald was saying. So they're not going to wait around to see. They're going to make sure they're covered. But then if they have to figure out a situation because of too much cap space taken up by goaltenders, that's something they will address when it's time. So that's what Fitzgerald did say yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to spend a lot more cap space on goalies, right? Let's throw it at a winger or a defenseman that can have a bit of more of an impact. Not that goalies don't, but I'm still going back to Mackenzie Blackwood. He's just so sold me that mindset-wise, he was a different goalie at the end of last year. Maybe it just clicked in that it's what did Yogi used to say? I love Yogi. It's getting late soon, Mackenzie. It's getting late soon for you.
Yeah.
Like you got to get this show on the road, and he seemed to get that. So
I agree. There was a difference in him down the stretch. We've got to see it when he comes back.
Yeah.
He's got to have that, whatever it is, maturity, confidence, whatever was lost. It was lost. If it's found, great.
Yep.
The Devils have a lot of excitement in the next week, but all of that continues tomorrow with the second round of the draft. 8 picks for New Jersey over that time period, and we will actually have live shows breaking down the second, third, and fourth rounds picks by New Jersey. So make sure you tune in on our social media channels, the Devils YouTube channel, and of course, NewJerseyDevils.com. Matt Loughlin and Chico Resch will be here with me, and we will break down everything you need to know about the newest members of the Black and Red. But thank you so much for joining us tonight. Congratulations to all those who are drafted and their dreams coming true tonight, and we will see you tomorrow morning. The draft starts again at 11 a.m.